The rain stung Reed's face like 1,000 tiny knives, each drop a reminder of the betrayal that had left him stranded on this desolate Oklahoma highway. At 19, he was a ghost of himself, shivering in a soaked hoodie, his backpack slung over one shoulder, the weight of his family's rejection heavier than the storm. They'd driven him out here, his father's voice still echoing, "You're no son of mine." The headlights had faded into the night, leaving Reed alone with the hum of distant thunder and the ache in his chest. He'd known coming out would be hard in their small, conservative town of Elkwood, where church sermons preached love but practiced hate. But he hadn't expected this, his own parents abandoning him on a back road, their taillights the last he'd see of the only home he'd ever known. Reed trudged forward, the asphalt slick beneath his sneakers, his breath visible in the cold. He had no plan, no money, just a phone with a dying battery and a heart full of rage and hurt. Elkwood was a place where being gay was a sin whispered about in hushed tones, a secret to be buried. Reed had tried to bury it, too, for years, through high school football games, through awkward dates with girls he didn't love, through prayers that never changed who he was. But when he'd finally spoken his truth, hoping for understanding, he'd been met with disgust. His phone buzzed weakly in his pocket. A text from his younger brother. "Caleb, I'm sorry. I didn't know they'd do this." Reed's fingers trembled as he typed back, "Don't be. I'll be okay." But he wasn't sure he believed it. The road stretched endlessly, a metaphor for the uncertainty ahead. He was free, but freedom tasted bitter when it came with exile. By dawn, Reed reached a gas station, its neon sign flickering like a dying star. The clerk, a grizzled man named Hank, took one look at Reed's drenched clothes and hollow eyes and offered him a coffee on the house. "You look like you've been through hell." "Kid," Hank said, sliding the cup across the counter. Reed nodded, unable to find words. He sipped the coffee, its warmth a small rebellion against the cold that had seeped into his bones. Hank didn't ask questions, but he let Reed linger until the rain stopped. As Reed left, Hank slipped him a $20 bill. "Get yourself somewhere safe," he said gruffly. Reed clutched the bill, a lifeline in a world that felt like it was drowning him. He caught a bus to Tulsa, the city's lights a beacon of possibility. He didn't know what came next, but he knew he couldn't go back. In Tulsa, Reed found a shelter that didn't turn him away. The place was crowded, smelling of stale coffee and desperation. But it was a start. He met others like him, young, queer, cast out. There was Mia, a trans girl with a sharp wit and a knack for survival, who taught him how to navigate the city's underbelly. And there was Javier, a quiet artist who sketched portraits of the shelter's residents, capturing their resilience in every line. They became Reed's makeshift family, their shared pain forging bonds stronger than blood. Reed got a job bussing tables at diner, the kind of place where truckers and locals argued over politics and pie. He saved every penny, dreaming of a life where he could be himself without fear. At night, he'd lie on his cot, staring at the ceiling, haunted by his father's voice, but fueled by a growing defiance. They'd thrown him away, but he'd build something they could never touch. One evening, Javier slid a sketch across the table, a portrait of Reed, his eyes fierce yet tender, a phoenix rising from ashes. "This is who you are," Javier said. "Don't let them take it from you." Reed traced the lines of the drawing, feeling something shift inside him. He wasn't just surviving. He was becoming. Tulsa was a city of contrasts, grit and glamour, poverty and promise. Reed threw himself into it, determined to carve out a place where he belonged. The diner job paid the bills, but it was the nights that shaped him. He started attending open mics at a queer-friendly bar called The Haven, a dimly lit space where drag queens and poets shared the stage. There, he met Ethan, a charismatic musician with blonde hair and a voice that could break your heart. Ethan was everything Reed wasn't: confident, unapologetic, openly gay in a way that felt like a rebellion. He was 24, with a lean frame and a smile that lit up the room. They collided one night after Ethan's set, when Reed, emboldened by cheap beer, complimented his performance. Ethan's eyes sparkled as he leaned in close. "You've got a story, don't you?" he said, more statement than question. They talked until the bar closed, sharing dreams and scars under the neon glow. Ethan had grown up in San Francisco, a world away from Elkwood's suffocating judgment. He'd faced his own struggles, parents who tolerated but never embraced him, a music career that teetered on the edge of failure, but he wore his truth like armor. Reed envied that strength, but Ethan saw something in him, too. "You're a fighter," Ethan told him. "You just don't know it yet." Their connection grew fast, a mix of attraction and something deeper. Ethan introduced Reed to a world of art and activism, where being queer wasn't just accepted but celebrated. Reed started writing, pouring his pain into poetry that he performed at the Haven. His words were raw, unflinching, cutting through the crowd like a blade. People listened, and for the first time, Reed felt seen. He enrolled in community college, studying literature and sociology, his mind awakening to ideas he'd never encountered in Elkwood. He learned about systemic oppression, about the history of queer resistance, about the power of community. With Ethan's encouragement, he started a blog, Out of the Ashes, where he shared his story and those of others like him. It gained traction, first locally, then beyond, as readers connected with his honesty. But success brought shadows. Reed's blog caught the attention of Elkwood's residents, including his family. A cousin sent him a message: "You're embarrassing us. Stop airing our dirty laundry." Reed's hands shook as he read it, old wounds reopening. Ethan found him staring at the screen, tears in his eyes. "They don't get to define you anymore," Ethan said, pulling him close. "You're bigger than their hate." Reed doubled down, using his platform to advocate for queer youth. He organized fundraisers for shelters, spoke at local events, and even landed a guest spot on a Tulsa radio show. His voice grew stronger, his presence magnetic. He was becoming everything his family despised: a proud, successful gay man who refused to be silenced. Yet, the past wasn't done with him. One night, a familiar name appeared in his inbox: Caleb. His brother had tracked him down, now 17 and questioning his own identity. "I need to talk," the email read. "I don't know who I am anymore." Reed's heart ached, torn between love for his brother and the pain of their family's betrayal. He agreed to meet, but he braced himself for what might come. The coffee shop was neutral ground, a bustling spot in downtown Tulsa where Reed and Caleb met on a crisp autumn afternoon. Caleb looked older, his boyish face hardened by the years, but his eyes held the same vulnerability Reed remembered. They sat across from each other, the air thick with unspoken words. "I didn't know if you'd come," Caleb said, his voice low. Reed studied him, searching for the brother who'd once been his closest ally. "I didn't know if I would either," Reed admitted. The truth hung between them. Caleb had stayed silent when their parents cast Reed out. Caleb confessed he was struggling. He'd started questioning his sexuality, terrified of what it meant in Elkwood. "I see what you're doing," he said, glancing at Reed's blog open on his phone. "You're out there, living. I'm stuck." Reed wanted to be angry, but he saw himself in Caleb's fear, a younger self, desperate for acceptance. They talked for hours, unraveling years of distance. Caleb wasn't ready to come out, but he wanted Reed's help to navigate his feelings. Reed promised to be there, but he set boundaries. "I can't go back to Elkwood," he said. "Not after what they did." Caleb nodded, tears in his eyes. "I don't blame you." Their meeting marked a turning point. Reed became Caleb's lifeline, guiding him through late-night calls and emails. He introduced Caleb to Ethan, who welcomed him with open arms. Slowly, Caleb began to accept himself, inspired by Reed's resilience. But the rest of the family remained a shadow, their silence a reminder of the rift that might never heal. Meanwhile, Reed's blog exploded. A national queer advocacy group noticed his work, offering him a paid position to speak at conferences. He traveled to New York, Chicago, and LA, sharing his story of survival and defiance. Ethan joined him when he could, their relationship deepening with every shared adventure. In a quiet moment in Central Park, Reed realized he was in love, not just with Ethan, but with the life he was building. Yet, success came with pressure. Trolls flooded his blog with hate, some from Elkwood, their words dripping with venom. Reed brushed it off, but Ethan worried. "You're carrying too much," he said one night, his arms around Reed. "You don't have to fight every battle." Reed kissed him softly. "I'm not fighting for me anymore. I'm fighting for kids like Caleb." 2 years after leaving Elkwood, Reed returned, not for his family, but for a speaking engagement at a Tulsa Pride event. His face was on posters, his name in headlines. Local hero rises from rejection. The event was electric, with thousands gathered to celebrate love and resilience. Reed took the stage, his voice steady as he shared his story, ending with a call to action. "We don't need their approval. We build our own families." The crowd roared, but Reed's eyes caught a familiar figure in the audience, his mother, Linda. She stood alone, her face unreadable. After the speech, she approached, her hands twisting nervously. "Can we talk?" she asked. Reed's heart raced, but he nodded, leading her to a quiet corner. Linda's words were halting, laced with guilt. "We were wrong," she said. "Your father, he's stubborn, but he's hurting. We didn't know how to handle it." Reed listened, his emotions a tangle of anger and longing. "You left me on a highway," he said, his voice breaking. "You chose hate over your son." Linda cried, but Reed felt no satisfaction. He wanted closure, not revenge. "I've built a life without you," he told her. "I don't know if I can let you back in." She nodded, promising to try harder, to talk to his father. Reed didn't trust her words, but he gave her Caleb's number. "Start with him," he said. "He needs you more than I do." Back in Tulsa, Reed threw himself into his work, but the encounter left him shaken. Ethan noticed, pulling him into a long embrace. You don't owe them anything, Ethan said. Reed nodded, but the weight of his past lingered. He channeled it into his advocacy, launching a mentorship program for queer youth. The program grew, earning him recognition as a leader in the community. Caleb visited often, now openly queer and thriving in college. He'd cut ties with their parents, too, but Linda's outreach gave him hope. Reed watched his brother's journey with pride, but he couldn't shake the fear that his family's change of heart was too little, too late. Reed's life was a whirlwind: speaking tours, interviews, a book deal for his memoir. He and Ethan moved into a loft in Tulsa's Arts District, their home a sanctuary of love and creativity. But the past came knocking again when Reed's father, Tom, showed up unannounced. Tom was a shadow of the man Reed remembered, grayer, smaller, his eyes haunted. "I need to say something," he began, his voice rough. Reed braced himself, expecting another lecture. Instead, Tom apologized. "I was wrong," he said. "I let fear and pride ruin us." He spoke of his regret, of the church that had fueled his hate, of the years lost to silence. Reed listened, torn between forgiveness and the pain that still burned. "You threw me away," he said. "Do you know what that did to me?" Tom nodded, tears streaming down his face. "I don't expect you to forgive me, but I'm trying to be better." Reed didn't know how to respond. He thought of Caleb, of the kids he mentored, of the life he'd built from nothing. "I don't hate you," he said finally, "but I don't need you anymore." Tom left, promising to keep trying, to support Caleb, to unlearn his prejudice. Reed watched him go, feeling a strange mix of relief and loss. Ethan was there, as always, holding him through the aftermath. "You're enough," Ethan whispered. Reed clung to him, knowing it was true. He'd become everything his family once despised: a proud, successful, unapologetically gay man. Their regret was their burden, not his. 5 years after that rainy night on the highway, Reed stood on a stage in Washington, D.C., accepting an award for his advocacy. The crowd included Ethan, Caleb, Mia, Javier, and countless others who'd become his chosen family. His speech was simple but powerful. "We don't need permission to exist. Our love, our lives, are enough." His memoir, Out of the Ashes, became a bestseller, inspiring queer youth across the country. His mentorship program expanded, opening centers in multiple cities. Caleb, now the confident young man, worked alongside him, their bond a testament to resilience. Linda and Tom attended one of Reed's events, sitting quietly in the back. They were trying, slowly rebuilding with Caleb, but Reed kept his distance, protecting the peace he'd earned. In a quiet moment, Reed and Ethan walked through a park, their hands intertwined, the city alive around them. "I never thought I'd get here," Reed admitted. Ethan smiled, his eyes warm. "You were always going to. You're unstoppable." Reed's journey wasn't just about survival. It was about thriving, about turning pain into purpose. He'd been abandoned, but he'd built a life that shone brighter than the hate that tried to dim it. And as he looked at Ethan, at the community he'd helped create, he knew he'd found something stronger than forgiveness: freedom.